Hello, everybody. Sorry we're a few minutes late in getting this thing kicked off. We thought we were actually live when we weren't. So we're still getting used to this platform and running these every month or so. So this is the StackLock user group meeting. We are here to talk about Minder today. I'm Stacy Potter. I'm a community manager here at StackLock, and I'm joined by my colleague Oz, who will be giving an introduction to Minder. So hopefully you're all in the right place. And thank you so much for joining us. So before I hand it off to Oz, I wanted to just start off with a few housekeeping items because we're now running a little bit more behind. I'm going to keep this quick, but we have until the top of the hour. We may not go that long. If you have questions, enter them into the chat and we'll get to them as we go along. But as I mentioned, Oz and I work for StackLock, and we're talking about Minder, our open source project today, which we've recently applied to donate to the OpenSSF Foundation as a sandbox project. But just a little bit about who we are and what we do. I just wanted to kind of introduce us a little bit. So in a nutshell, our company's goal is to bring development and security teams together to eliminate risk by bringing developers' risk intelligence into their existing workflows and tools, and by providing security teams with centralized policy control for their entire SDLC. So our team's background is in creating, maintaining, and scaling open source systems, including Kubernetes and SigStore. And we're drawing on our expertise in open source and security to give developers and open source communities better tools to secure their software and manage external dependency risk. We believe that contributing to open source is a necessary part of our everyday work. And as part of their daily tasks, our company leaders, engineers, and PMs maintain and contribute to open source projects and lead open source initiatives that support upstream communities and advance open source security. So let me get to the next slide. You can learn more about us and who we are at our website, GitHub, connect with us on Discord, and join our YouTube and Meetup pages. So with that, Oz, I will kick it off to you and hand it over. Thanks so much.
All right. Hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about Minder. So if you're not in the right talk, you accidentally click this channel, you're still welcome. But yeah, we're going to talk about the open source project that we're promoting the most right now here in StackLock, and one of the first community projects that we decided to kick off as a company, right? So let's go to the next slide. Some of you might know me, some of you may not. So for those who don't, hey, my name is Oz, or Juan Antonio Osorio, which is a little bit easier, well, more difficult to pronounce, really. But yeah, Mexican living in Finland. I've been here for more than a decade now, and yeah, super passionate about supply chain security, vulnerability management. If you want to reach out on Discord, feel free. I'm happy to chat anytime. And yeah, let's continue. Right. So today we're going to talk about Minder, and this weird animal that you're seeing right here is called a marmot. And so our idea with this was that marmots will guard each other to some extent, and will do these weird and kind of funny screams if they sense danger. And so the whole thing that Minder is supposed to do is mind your supply chain security assets, right? So warn you, and actually sometimes even fix it, right? So this is what we decided to do, but we'll get to it later. Let's just go to the agenda right now. So this is today's agenda, right? It looks a little bit weird because it's a bunch of questions, but really that's what we try to answer, right? So we're going to talk about why we decided to create Minder to begin with. What is it? How does it work? And in case you're super confused and you're just like, huh, we're going to give a demo, right? So hopefully it becomes a little bit more clear. And finally, call to action, like you can help. This is a community project. And as Stacy said, StackLock is definitely committed to communities, right? And Minder will be, hopefully, a more community-centric project in the near future. I mean, it already is, but you know what I mean. We're donating, hopefully. We're trying. All right. So one of the first reactions that a lot of people get when they get into supply chain security and start to navigate the landscape is that this is just freaking hard, right? There's a lot of moving pieces. Sometimes you don't even know where to start. And so with this in mind, this is something that we started realizing when we started creating Minder, right? So we wanted it to make it so that we lower the bars for more people to start adopting best practices. Continue. Right. And one of the big sources of confusion is that now, I mean, you can even create like a little bingo of all sorts of things that you should start researching, right? Like now I need to know about dependency management, about my VCS security. Now S-bombs are all over the place and hopefully you're generating them too. How do you do that? Right? Attestations are a thing, image signatures, right? 6 stories coming over. Next. And then you have all the projects that provide all these features, right? So I'm not being exhaustive because I wanted to keep these slides, I mean, looking still kind of classy, but honestly, it can be very overwhelming. And that's just a good thing, right? Right now, the communities and the ecosystem is thriving. There's so much things going on, and that's fantastic, right? So many people are looking into this problem, and together we will solve a lot of the challenges out there. But for a newcomer and for somebody that just wants to be a user, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So that's where Minder kicks in. So Minder is a project that takes the learnings of many things, such as Kubernetes, right? And what we want to do is take a declarative approach to automate your settings, right? So we're going to look at your repos, PRs, artifacts, and we're going to monitor, present issues, present alerts, give recommendations, right? Ultimately, for you to enforce best practices and get stuff done, right? Hopefully, you don't need to become a supply chain security expert. Minder will do that for you. And that's the whole idea, right? So we track packages, we check dependencies, we do automated fixes, right? So you're going to see that in a little bit. But importantly as well, it's meant to be multi-tenant from day zero, right? From day one. We've noticed that every time somebody tries to do some automation and try to make it runnable by some other people, if you don't think about multi-tenancy, it becomes very hard to do. And so we thought about that from day one, and it's already multi-tenant, which is a great thing. And it's open source, all right? So from when we started Minder, everything was already on GitHub. We've always been very open about it. And next. It's available as a service, right? So you don't have to run it yourself. Now, we do provide all of the assets and automation for you to be able to deploy Minder by yourself in your organization and in your infra, right? But you don't need to. You can just run the instance that your friends here at StackLock are running, and that's free, right, for open source projects, and it'll remain that way. And hopefully it's valuable, right? So that's what we want to do. Next. All right. So now that we have an idea, or at least an overall idea of what Minder is, let's explore a little bit of some concepts that Minder introduces, right? So Minder tries to map your SDLC to some extent, and we know that your SDLC will be very different. Like a lot of them are different. They all introduce many pieces, right? So all of the integration points, we call them providers, right? We happen to have a big and developed GitHub provider, but we also now are finishing up a GitLab one, right? We have Docker Hub, where you're probably going to push and publish your container images. So that's going to be yet another Minder provider. So you can think of providers as Minder's integration points to your supply chain. And the different aspects of your supply chain we call entities, right? We didn't come up with a better name, sorry about that, but that's what they are right now. And so an entity is just an aspect of your supply chain. Just think about it that way. And so your repository that's in GitHub or GitLab is an entity, right? All the artifacts that you push are entities. Pull requests or merge requests are entities as well, and you can evaluate policy on top of them, right? And releases now is the newest thing, and those are entities as well. Let's go to the next slide now. So with what you can do now that you have mapped all of the different pieces of your SDLC, you probably want to enforce best practices on them. And so we have a policy engine as part of Minder that allows you to do this, right? So basically what we want to do is monitor different aspects, right, to best practices for those entities, right? And a policy in Minder consists of two things: a rule type, which is all the nitty gritty details, and you'll see in the demo, right? So a rule type contains a description, contains error messages, severity, like all of the things that you want to check about a specific aspects of your supply chain. And it contains the actual rule implementation, right? Like I am going to check that this specific setting is set, right? And give an error otherwise, right? So it contains all of that. That's an implementation detail because we bundle those up and provide you with some ready-made rule types, but you can extend them if you want, and we'll see how they look like in a bit. But it all gets instantiated in a profile, right? So a profile is a list of rules that you apply to the different aspects of your supply chain, right? So ultimately, you're going to have a profile that has all your repo rules and artifact rules and release rules. And this is going to say, I want my supply chain to have these attributes. And that's what we want to do, right? Let's continue. So if you know Kubernetes, this is going to look slightly familiar. It's not a CRD, right? So we have our own way of storing this in Minder, but it's all just a simple YAML text structure, right? It doesn't even need to be YAML, actually. Underneath, we serialize to gRPC, but that's how it looks like. So you define the name of the entity, the context, you set if you want to create alerts or if you want to remediate, right? Because not everybody wants that. And for each entity, like repository, you will create a list of rules and their instantiation. So let's move to the next one. For a different entity, you will have a different set of rules, right? Like I want my artifacts to be signed. That's a rule. And Minder will be able to check that, right? So that's how a profile looks like in Minder's world. Next. As I mentioned before, Minder is multi-tenant, so everything is scoped to a project. And we use hard multi-tenancy, right? So you have a project, that's where you register your providers, your entities, your rules, profiles, and everything is separated from the other project, right? We actually implement a thing called hierarchical multi-tenancy, so you can even put teams beneath teams and so on. But if you just want to work in a single project and that's all you want to do because you're one person, that's fine too. We give you the flexibility to do so. Next. All right. So just to recap real quick, rules are pluggable and extensible, right? So uh, we don't tie them strictly to Minder. You can write your own, and it's in a flexible language called Rego, and we have several engines to do that, right? So you can do that. And Minder aims to track different aspects of the supply chain through entities, right? And to hook up to your different systems for generating software, which are the providers, right? So it's not only repos, pull requests, and artifacts. We are actually building more entities as we go, right? So you are going to see stuff more interesting. I mean, you already saw releases a bit ago. I mean, as an example, but we will work with pipelines, we will work with build environments, we will even go up to the workload, right? So we want to map the whole SDLC. We want to help you secure the whole thing and hopefully automate a lot of the tedious tasks, which is to enforce best practices, right? And as I mentioned, it's multi-tenant from day one. So you don't need to be scared about another tenant or somebody else in the same Minder instance having access to your assets. All right. So Minder is open source itself, and it's built on open source, right? So as I mentioned, there's a lot of projects that we have to thank. We use Postgres as a database. We use Open Policy Agent as an authorization backend. We use Rego to build our policy engine. We use Keycloak for identity. We deploy on Kubernetes. We use Sigstore libraries to verify artifacts and signatures, right? So we build on the shoulders of giants. And so credit is where credit is due, right? Minder is a big piece, and hopefully at some point somebody builds on top of Minder, right? That's an open source maintainer's dream as well, right? But this is more or less how the architecture looks like in terms of the projects that we use. Let's go to the next slide, and let's just take a very quick speed run on the internals, right? So at some point we are going to have a talk about architecture, but not today. Today we're just going to give you like a very quick view of how things work. All right, so Minder took a lot of learnings from Kubernetes, right? So in case you're aware and interested about level versus edge triggering, we try to use a little bit of both things. We take events, Minder is able to reconcile all that event, right? So we reconcile state. We try to be level triggered as much as possible. And so that's a lot of the big learnings, right, that we had. Um, we deploy on Kubernetes, right? So we have a Helm chart that you're able to deploy by yourself, but one of the things that at least I learned the hard way is to keep the state of your application, or in this case, Minder, outside of Kubernetes, right? So we have a cluster, we use it, we leverage it as much as we can, but we store all the state in Postgres, right? And not at CD. And so Postgres will have all the state of the world in terms of what Minder tracks, and we heavy leverage it. So Postgres is battle tested, is quite a mature project, and so we decided to use that instead. Another thing that we do is that we don't handle identity in Minder. Minder doesn't have really users. Everything is handled outside, right? We don't store your information. That's stored in an identity provider, and in our case, it's Keycloak, right? So Keycloak will hook up to an identity provider, GitHub, for example, or in the future, we're going to support Google as well. And just tell Minder, like, hey, this token is legit, take it into account. And that's how we do things, right? The policy engine that you will look at in a little bit, it's the most complete version that we have is with Open Policy Agent, right? So a lot of the rules that we have, or the more complex one, are written in that, right? It's just a super powerful language. I actually am a big fan. And so that's what we use, right? And you'll see it in a bit. But we also have different engines for evaluating. We allow you to use JQ, right? We had a couple other ones. I don't remember. And we were thinking about introducing Cell as the next one as well. So there has been some demand for that. But the most common, Rego, right? Open Policy Agent. Authorization in Minder is based on OpenFGA. So we have a FGA model. We have 3 roles, right? You're able to be an admin in your project, an editor, a viewer, right? And all of that is handled via OpenFGA, right? It's a fantastic project. It's been ramping up a lot, and so far it's been great. I really like it. So that's what we use. And finally, since we deal a lot with the artifacts that eventually we will deploy, in order to verify integrity, in order to verify a lot of the provenance attributes, we use a lot of Sigstore libraries, right? So we use Sigstore for that. Minder does not do anything sneaky in there behind it. We leverage projects to give you the best experience. Next. All right. So hopefully by now you're not dizzy with all of the things that I've talked about, and we can go to a demo so I can show you how Minder works. Let's go. All right. So in this case, I already have the Minder CLI installed. If you go to the Minder front page in the README, right in the repo, which we'll give you links for, you'll see ways to install it. In a Mac, we have a brew tab for that. In this case, I'm using a Linux machine, so I have another installation method. I built it from source myself, but I'm a Minder dev. Sorry about that. But when you have the Minder CLI, you'll be able to use it, right? So the first thing that you want to do is authenticate to Minder. So Minder auth login would be the case. And in this case, it logged me into our freemium, or our public good instance, which api.stacklog.com is where it is, right? I have a couple of projects right here. And in this case, I want to use just one. So Minder CD, this one, and here I am. Minder provider list. So in this case, I have one provider enrolled in this project, right? The one for my JAORMX GitHub org, and it's already done, right? But if you would need to enroll yourself, Minder provider enroll, and this would automatically take GitHub. If you want to use another provider, you would call another class like GitLab, right? So we have different provider classes, but right now GitHub is the most battle tested. So you probably want to use that for now. Once you have that and you're enrolled, what you want to do is start registering repositories, right? So Minder repo register. And in this case, Minder is able to go ahead, list all the repos it has access to, and start tracking them. So in this case, we're going to track attest repo, and I have another one that I like testing with, which is called bad Python, because it has a bunch of bad dependencies out there. So let's see how it looks. Minder has registered them, Minder repo list, and we're off to the races, right? In this case, I already have some, well, I mean, the freemium already gives you some rule types that you can use. I also have a bunch of custom ones that I can leverage. So you want to see Minder rule type list, and this will give you all of the catalog. In this case, as you can see, it's a little bit extensive. So you might want to start browsing them carefully. But you don't need to worry too much about this because we are going to use already built profiles for this. So what you want to do is check out the Minder rules and profiles repository, right? This is open source as well, and we give you access for free if you want to check it out. And here you will notice an interesting project structure, right? You have profiles for GitHub, right? You have profiles for GitLab, rule types that are common to both of them, rule types for GitHub. So we give you access to everything here. And I have some testing artifacts right here, but we don't need to care much about those. So right now we're going to start browsing rule types to show you what they look like. So Minder, GitHub, there we go. And let's look for a very simple one, which is secret scanning. The rule type is meant to have the content and start measuring the nitty-gritty details about that specific configuration that you're checking. So we have a nice name that we show to humans. In case it fails, this is how it should look like. If secret scanning is not enabled, that's a high severity issue, right? It's a very low bar. You should just be using this. Please just fix it, right? That's what this means. We give you a description. This is what this rule does. Guidance for you to fix the issue if it's found to be failing, right? And now we go to the actual rule definition, right? So here we have to specify the entity, right? So this applies to a repo. And so for a repo, you're going to do this specific rule. In this case, secret scanning is not free for private repositories. So we give you the option default to true to skip this rule if it's a private repo, right? Some people that are purchasing this can turn this off and they can just go ahead and enable it for everything. But us folks that haven't paid for this, well, we need to set it to true. And the most interesting thing here would be the policy language, right? So again, this is not something that you have to upgrade Minder to have. This is something that you can write yourself. And if you know a little bit of Rego and it's not too complicated to learn, you'll see that from the input that Minder ingested, we check the security analysis and that secret scanning is enabled. And that's how you would read this rule, right? And skip if you have the setting and the repo is private. The ingested repo is private. So that's how to read this specific rule. It may look a little bit overwhelming, especially if I'm showing you this in a speedrun demo. But once you get used to this, you start getting the hang of things. Finally, you have a remediate action, right? So we patch this specific path and we set it to enabled, and that's it. And Minder will run this if it detects that there's an issue, right? So let's look at something else, perhaps. So now that we have explored how, or a very basic structure of how a role type looks like, let's look at a profile. And in this case, a profile would be, let's say, for GitHub Advanced Security. This is a very simple profile. And how that looks like is that we, of course, have the display name, but the most important thing that you have to remember, a profile is an instantiation of rule types. So it's a list of rules. In this case, we enable secret scanning, secret push protection, code QL, and that dependabot is configured, right? So that's what we do here. So let's apply this. Minder profile apply. So if you're used to Kubernetes, you'll notice some similarities here. And you'll see profiles, GitHub, gas, and off we go to the races. There we go. And so Minder should already be looking at my repositories. Minder profile status list -n, because this was gas. Oh, sorry about that. Minder profile status list, gas profile. And wow, we can see that it's failing, right? So something's not right here. In this case, the whole profile, we say that the profile is failing. And so we want to look at the details, right? So you add the -d to see the details. And we check that code QL is not enabled for bad Python. Of course not. Let's see, dependabot is not enabled for attest repo. Maybe it's a little bit easier to view it a little bit smaller. Minder also keeps track of all the evaluations that it does. So if you want to do Minder history list, this will also look as follows, right? So you can see all the executions that it's doing. And if we want Minder to automatically fix this, how would we do this, right? So similar to Kubernetes, is declarative. You tell it what to do. And what we want to do is enable remediations, right? So let's look at this, remediate on Minder profile apply, and it should start fixing things by itself. Now, one caveat is that Minder will never do things behind your back in terms of code, right? Your code is sacred. We really take care of that. And so what Minder will do is that it will actually start opening pull requests to fix code QL and fix dependabot configured, right? So let's see. Minder history list starts viewing that some of them started passing already, but we still don't have code QL for bad Python. I think I need to share the screen a little bit differently in order to show this. So let me stop this, present again, share screen. Sorry about that. Right, and you will see that Minder already provided a pull request for enabling CodeQL. Right, so as you can see, Minder will not do this behind your back, which is a good thing. If we merge this, and I will merge it right now because I trust it. Submit review. I had an issue here. Because this is a Python project, right? So anyway, I'll do this here. Let me check a test repo. What do we have here? So in this case, I didn't have the dependabot configured, so I am going to merge this as well. And if I do the history list, you should start seeing some passing statuses, right? So dependabot for attest repo is passing here. Let's see, bad Python has been skipped in this case, right? So yeah, attest repo is passing, already looking a lot better. Here's one of the nice things to show about Minder as well, that in this case, we enabled code security, right? If I start disabling things such as push protection, Minder will automatically detect this, right? So I go back and it's already enabled. I didn't have to do anything. So Minder just ensures that everything is set up the whole time. Let's move to something a little bit more interesting now. Profiles, GitHub, dependencies. In this case, this is a profile for pull requests. And what I want to do is make sure that we're checking for vulnerabilities from multiple databases, right? If I don't want to overwhelm people, and in this case I don't, I can remove one of them and just trust that Trusty is doing the right thing. Minder profile apply, profile, GitHub dependencies, and it'll be guarding my dependencies now. So if I try to add something that is not the right thing to do, so let's do a really quick one here. Requirements.txt, right? Let's say that I would add something like Python OAuth 2, commit changes, propose changes. I'm going to create a pull request. And so now I proposed a change that includes this, and Minder immediately tells me like, hey, folk, you should probably check that this dependency is archived and you should not include it, right? So this is just some of the things that Minder can do. We have many more rules for detecting embedded binaries and detecting invisible characters, and the world's your oyster. You can add a lot more rules if you want. Again, this is a community effort. Let's move to the slides again. All right, next slide. Right. So coming up with how you can help, like, please try it out. A project is only as good as the users that it has. And the more users we have, the more feedback we get. And we really want to make this useful for everybody. So please join. Check it out, right? So we have moved to a new organization, MinderSec, as part of us making this more and more community centric. And so it's MinderSec/Minder, the new URL as of today, and give us feedback, right? So we're on Discord, as Stacy mentioned. We love to chat. We love to hear what people have to say. Please reach out. And finally, if you just find an issue in the docs, or if you want something is a bit confusing, that's also an issue. We want this to be as useful as possible. So documentation is super handy. Code is super handy as well. We have issues marked as good first issue, right? So we're happy to review. We're happy to help. And yeah, thanks for everything, folks. That would be it. I think the next would be Q&A. What's next? So we're going to have another of these sessions, and I'm going to show you how to write your own rule types and profiles. And hopefully you find that interesting.
And you can find that session on our meetup page, and you can sign up there, and we'll remind you when that happens. We're still getting it uploaded to meetup, but here's all the things that Oz was mentioning again, just so you can see it. And then, yeah, if you have any questions at all, we'll give you a couple minutes here while we're wrapping things up. If you want to put anything in the chat, please let us know. Otherwise, I don't see anything as of yet. But yeah, Oz, are you on any other like Slack channels or things like that where people could reach you as well, or should we just stick with Oz at Stacklock?
So yeah, I mean, you can find my name in the Store Slack, right? I mean, the OpenSSF Slack as well, in Kubernetes. I mean, a bunch of them, or in
Cool.
Discord too, right? So that
Yep.
that I think would be the easiest place to find me too.
Great. Amazing. Well, sorry for the wonky start, but it was a good reset. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And we hope to see you on November 11th for another one of these Minder Mondays, where, yeah, Oz will be talking about writing rule types and profiles. Thanks so much, Oz. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one, folks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.